Welcome back. Time for our first fireside chat of the event today with Lisbeth Oes, Head of ESG at GVH Gaming and Entertainment Group. And we are talking ESG in entertainment. Lisbeth, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm very good. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Lovely stuff. Well, we were absolutely flooded with questions from our first session, so I'm expecting nothing less. What I will say to the audience is do put your names on your questions, just so we know who we're talking to. That's much appreciated. Okay, well, lots for us to get through today. So where I'd like to start is a question about influence, really, because the entertainment industry has huge influence in so many areas of life. But how can the entertainment industry really use its influence positively to promote ESG principles for you?
Yeah, I think the gaming and entertainment industry has really a unique ability to reach and influence diverse audiences. Like by embedding the ESG principles into core content that's out there, the messaging, how we interact with our customers and operational practices, we have all these tools to raise awareness on critical issues like responsible gaming, data privacy and information security, and also diversity and inclusivity. And I think when we talk about ESG principles in the entertainment and gaming industry, it's essential to recognize that the social aspect, so the S, the middle letter, is at the heart of what we do mostly. Since we have different pillars to shape the business operations responsibly. Social is really central there, and I will dive more into that. And I think it's a simple reason that gaming and entertainment industry have a direct and significant impact on, like what you say, like a lot of players in the world, millions. And the responsibility just extends beyond just providing entertainment. We must ensure that the experiences we offer are safe, inclusive, and they contribute as a whole positive to the society. And I think recently, we have seen much more focus, especially within the EU, with the different regulations, the CSRD coming into effect this year. And companies like ours, we're based in the Netherlands, means that there's a future that puts more pressure as well on reporting, transparency, and accountability of putting real numbers behind. So even more important to focus on the bringing in the picture and transmitting that information about player well-being, responsible gaming, and what is our narrative and how do we do create that safe space for our players, our customers. And I think a powerful way in the entertainment industry can leverage is influence through the content that we create. Like I quickly touched upon that, but the interactions we foster and the practices that we promote, since the reach is broad, you can really get to that broad audience, and it gives a real platform to champion sustainability practice and critical values like inclusivity, the mental health, responsible consumption, and create a community of well-being. Not wanting to leave the E and the S completely out because they are important as well, especially in terms of environment, focusing on reducing the carbon footprint, analyzing energy usage and energy efficient practices. And on the government side, it's very important we look at the transparency and ethical business practices at the core of our strategy and business practices to maintain that accountability, complying with standards and all of that. So yeah, I think we do have a unique opportunity to influence, to focus on those responsible business practices and integrating ESG into operations, content, and by doing so, helping the industry's brand reputation along the way with more information and transparency.
What I'd love to know is a bit of context really about how you actually go about integrating these things from a customer point of view. What do they see? What do the gamers see? And how is that put together? It's fascinating to know the actual practical things you're doing.
Yeah, so I think responsible gaming as a core focus within the ESG strategy, it's really essential to balance engaging player experience with moderation. And This involves integrating tools and features that help players monitor their gaming behavior, such as setting limits, establishing spending caps, and providing reminders. These features support players in making more and better informed choices, keeping their gaming experiences more enjoyable and sustainable. And more than that, it's just more than just implementing these tools. We also want to focus more on education through our content, like sharing tips and information about how to maintain a healthy balance and when to recognize when it might be time to put in a bit more moderation. So it's much more about guiding players, like building a relationship with a player on a personalized level to enhance that support factor. And education is another powerful tool here as well. Integrating tips on responsible gaming in their player journey, wherever they are, raising awareness, indeed, coming back limits, maybe taking a break at some point, and really creating an understanding of moderation. And I think something that a company can do, which is not directly related to the consumer or the player, is work much more on academic research, working with institutions and also other organizations, setting up collaboration so we can learn how to advance on this quite difficult topic, because it has a lot of behavioral triggers and data points, and we need to get them all together and interpret that and use that to interact with our consumer. So there's a lot of different pieces coming together, but surely research with academics can help us refine those tools, using those practices to better serve our consumers and our players. And I think that approach strengthens a mutual relations between the consumer and the company.
Well, one key question in this area for me is, how do you strike that balance? Because obviously you want people to play regularly, you want people to play safely. How do you actually balance the two? Because you want customers to come back, you want gamers to enjoy themselves, but you also want it to be done responsibly. How difficult is it to find that sweet spot between the two?
Yeah, I think here we have seen a learning curve from the industry, since it is not that old. And if you want to look ahead, sustainability is looking 5-10 years ahead. You need to look ahead, and you might rethink your strategy and focusing on building a solid foundation and a good informative area where people enjoy that entertainment. It will last longer than when there would be a negative experience in the short term. So I see that kind of thinking much more integrated in regulations, but also in the practices of companies, showing how they interact. And that's really key, I think, when we look to sustainability long term. We look at building a relationship with your customer. We look at how can we be there together in 10 years' time. And yeah, I think that shift needs to come. And indeed, like what we said, like prioritizing those tools and resources to incorporate responsible gaming practices, maybe allowing for self-assessments, the spending caps, the time alerts. There's a lot of different tools out there, also with newer technologies that can really help us to manage behavior, since our company is offering land-based venues, but also online gaming experiences. And there we are having access to so much data, a lot of big data, which we want to interpret to then improve our policies and our operations towards more safety even.
I've got a fantastic question here that's come in, Lisbeth, from the audience, which I'll go to, because it really fits into what we were just talking about there.
Yeah.
And it's, how do you deal with concerns about potential backlash from your audience if they feel you're overstepping the role? For example, they don't want to feel preached or dictated to. How do you go about that?
Yeah, I think that's where the moderation comes in, because we have from a regulatory point of view, we need to step in at some point. There is no way around it. But I always say, I feel sustainability is where that compliance factor stops, because compliant we need to be to keep our licenses, to keep our company in good standing, to have a good business model. But sustainability is that little extra. And to go in a little bit more on safer gaming and responsible gaming, and to promote and educate more on the tools available and how to recognize harmful play, that has actually been received positively by our customers. It hasn't really been something that's had a lot of resistance, because I think the player, the consumer, also feels that it's nice that the company cares about them, that they're not just a number, that they are our person. So it's maybe surprising, but it has been received positively. And yeah, there might be a limited amount that don't, but I think overall for your business model, it's the right way to go.
So do you feel that fostering really healthier consumption habits can really support the longer term sustainability of the gaming industry?
Yes, totally. Yeah. Commitment to player well-being, it's not just good for players, it's beneficial for the whole industry. And when the players feel supported, they are more likely to trust your platform and to engage with it. We are dealing also with a lot of different parties. Some of them are regulated, but some of them are not. And this is really hard for consumers to distinguish with. So I think every kind of industry has that kind of reputation topic. Like sometimes I compare it with like you have probably an airline that you would like to fly with, which is your preferred airline. But another one or this one, it might have like a flight accident or maintenance issues in the news. Like, how is that going to affect your choice of airlines? Is that going to impact your trust? Is that going to impact your future consumption? And I think every brand can have reputational damage, but you still need to start with yourself, with the right path, set out that path and know where you're going. And I think the customers, in the end, they will notice and they will see that, and they would still want to choose that trusted platform, even though like at the airline company, the ticket might be a bit more expensive, but you want to choose that option because it gives you a better feeling of making a safe choice.
You were talking a moment ago about data and technology. How important is that for you in making sure you're making smart decisions when it comes to ESG, when it comes to your customers and the wider business?
Yeah, this is a very important topic for the industry as well, because a lot of venues and online play, you would need to identify yourself by ID card or passport. So obviously we're dealing with sensitive information there, and laws around data handling, customer privacy, information security comes in there. And again, if that's not arranged well, this can have serious impacts for your business model and trust towards your business in the future. So this is one of also the key pillars within the gaming and entertainment industry. Apart from payment practices, people dealing with payments, whether it's physical or online, they expect their information around their banking cards, their transfers to be handled correctly and safely. So I think that's where that part comes in, that it's like a top priority.
When it comes to the responsibility you have towards your customers as a wider industry, there is a huge responsibility. You know, it's gaming is something that can be addictive, of course. You want to make sure you've got that balance right. How big a responsibility do you feel that is to make sure you're doing the right thing by customers, using the technology, having smart strategies? How do you play that?
I think this is where ESG really is super helpful, because it brings a holistic approach to sustainability, and it gives more framework to build up your strategy holistically. You analyze your business through the materiality analysis, and that's where you get the most important topics, and you can frame them in your ESG and sustainability strategy. So this is why today we're focusing a lot on social responsible gaming, because this is where the topic of responsibility towards society, towards your consumer really stands out. Like if you would be as a gas and oil company, you would probably be 80% focused on the environmental part. But for us, this is different. The industry has a big social component. So yeah, I think building that strategy, really having the awareness and commitment from the top of your company, and slowly integrating like each department with their unique vision and contribution to sustainability. For example, I work with purchasing department to see what about more ethical and sustainable purchasing in our supply chain, with obviously our responsible gaming departments, like how can we put more KPIs and numbers and show more transparency and what are our goals there, with data security, with our HR teams. Our people are also key in providing and fostering our culture and our products. And I think the diversity and inclusion here is a very important topic, which we have been discussing and will be discussing a lot today. So yeah, it kind of all gets together, and it will be made easier to transmit the communication around it internally for your own audience, but also externally to show how is your sustainability focus looking and what are you actually doing.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You were mentioning sort of the wider industry there, and I want to carry on with that thread for a moment, if I can. How important is it that the whole gaming and entertainment industry works together and collaborates on these kind of issues? You know, for example, your ESG strategies at JVH clearly very mature, well thought out. You know, you're on point. Others maybe less so. How vital is it the whole industry collaborates on this?
Yeah, I think it's very important. And I get this question more like, what if you're a startup? Why would you focus on ESG? Because it seems like something a lot of resource and effort goes in. But I think it's so important to have that thought from the beginning once you start, and what is your business actually about? Because once your business starts growing and you want to deal with businesses that are more sustainability focused, this is a very important factor for them to review, to do their due diligence on, and even down the line for possible acquisition or more like partnerships. I think due to ESG and sustainability and the importance of knowing your value chain and having an impact on your value chain, this has been made a much higher priority as well for smaller companies. So I think everyone has a real job to come together and establish perhaps more standards so we can publish better information that really aligns with what everyone is publishing. Because right now, what you're saying, everyone defines, describes, puts their KPIs through their own interpretation. And that can be much more streamlined, because then it would be easier to compare and to also set goals for ourselves and for the industry. I think this is also where regulators really come in. And I've seen some regulators actually putting standards, putting a code, even though they're voluntary right now, but we have been working groups to set up like a code of requirements, what they would look like for our industry. Because a lot of these international standards, they are very general. They are often very heavyweight on the environment, while we are focusing more on social. So we need to think ahead, get together, and really establish those requirements ourselves. And I think taking a lead there can really have an advantage for you and for the industry. Because if you wait until these requirements or standards are being set by a regulation, it's better to do it yourself, so you have better influence and better business operational mindset if these are actually the right data to report on, instead of waiting out there. So I've seen now a couple of regulators doing that, and it has been really useful in our reporting strategies, like what data to include and what not. We see more frameworks and networks coming up, sharing ideas between the different operators, coming together. even having sustainability reports summarized of a group of companies into like one. So I think those are really good transformations that we see going on.
Yes, it's all about being more than just compliant. You want to be ahead of the regulations, and that's so relevant in this case. Lisbeth, one last question for you, if I can. If we can just look to the future, just in 60 seconds or so, what do you see the future of ESG in the entertainment and gaming industry? What are the new trends? What will the technologies be? Round that up for us.
Yeah, I do think technology will have like a profound role in shaping our future. Like, we've seen AI and machine learning already being so helpful. It will enable us to interpret more big data more precisely, and we can adapt more responsible gaming measures towards that, enhance more personalization, align it with greater goal for player well-being. If we have better tools that accurately analyze player patterns and match them with solutions that we have, for example, playtime reminders, spending limits, ensuring sportive and non-disruptive experiences that create more informed decisions for the players. I think that will be something in the future that will be an advantage. And there's other technologies like the blockchain could have possibilities for more transparency, particularly in the data and privacy and user protection area. Other technologies like AR or VR could also offer a lot for the gaming experience, which in some already do. And we see these technologies, when they become more mainstream, ESG will also play a critical role in ensuring that they are being used ethically and inclusive and responsible, and really limit and work on minimizing that harmful play experience that could happen. Looking in the future, I think ESG will be deeply embedded in our industry, with the transparency, of course, at heart. Like what we talked about, there's more reporting coming up. We need to make things more public, which puts also more pressure, which is, I think, a good thing. We will support the growth of the more responsible, serious companies, leading the way. So looking forward in our industry, I think it can mean a lot of good.
Absolutely. Your video feed is just failing you a little bit, Lisbeth, so we will look to wrap up there. It's been fascinating to find out about how you're working in this area, so thanks so much for joining us here at Sustainability Live, Diversity and Inclusion.
Thank you for having me.